we have a situation in West Africa that is so demonic, that is so twisted. It makes the standard corruption you hear looks like child's play. The Turkish billionaire family extracting upwards of $1 billion every year in gold. We have Liberian presidents, 4 of them, who have sold their own citizens into slavery and death for a measly 3% royalty. They're poisoning the water with cyanide. They're poisoning the water with arsenic. They're shooting protesters in the head. And our leaders, they're not stopping it because they're low-life scums who are cashing the checks while their own people die. That's what's happening in Liberia. I just said it. That is the state of our world today. Profit over human life. And if you think you're innocent, check your phone. Check your NVIDIA stock. You're funded it. Today we're going to do something the mainstream media refuses to do properly. We're going to conduct a forensic accountability analysis of the Beer Mountain Mining Corporation. See, this is not just a story about a mine. This is a story about a crime scene that spans from the rainforest of Grand Cape County all the way to the boardrooms of Switzerland and Silicon Valley. Here are the facts they try to delete. The Associated Press and the Gecko project dug this up. But the Liberian government, they try to scrub it off the internet. You see, Beer Mountain Corporation, owned by Avesoro Resources and the Mapa Group, controlled by the Turkish billionaire Gunal family, they are pulling out upwards of $1 billion in gold every single year from Liberia, a tiny country on the west coast of Africa. And what does Liberia get? Poison. What do the villagers get? They get death. We're going to walk you through the timeline of betrayal. We're going to name the names. Charles Taylor, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, George Weah, and the current man in charge, Joseph Numa Boyka. They want this kept quiet. You know me, I don't really care for what they want. They want you to think this is just business as usual in Africa. Well, it's not. It is environmental terrorism. It is environmental genocide. It's homicide. And today, we're putting the evidence on the table. Let's look at the forensics, shall we? Because you cannot argue chemistry. In the village of Jacandor, the people rely on the water. They rely on the river for their life. They rely on the river for drinking, for food, especially with the global hunger index just being released, Liberia ranking so low on that list. Food insecurity, it's a big problem. A river that produces an abundance of fish for a people living on their ancestral land is kind of a big deal. But when Beer Mountain moved in, that river turned into a weapon. We have documented evidence of 4 toxic spills. You see, we can't call this an accident because accident happens once, maybe twice. But when it happens 4 times, it's a business strategy. It reminded me of a line I was reading in the new confession of an economic hitman. If you haven't read the first one, it's a must Please do pick it up. This is the second one. This is on page 177. It says here, paragraph 2. During the 1980s and into the 1990s, the emphasis switched from entrepreneurship to deregulation. Milton Friedman, a member of the Chicago School of Economics, had won the Nobel Prize in Economics by maintaining that the only goal of business should be to maximize profits, regardless of the social and environmental cost. And the government oversight in general was unnecessary and counterproductive. Nobel Peace Prize. Business goal is profit at all cost, environmental and social. Government oversight, regulatory oversight, unnecessary. I want you to hold on to that. Because in March of 2016, the very first month of production, cyanide and arsenic spilled into the water. The villagers see dead fish floating on the surface, and what does the company say? They released a statement saying that there was no adverse impact. No adverse impact. So I guess dead fish, skin rashes, children vomiting, people dying, no adverse impact. Well, that's a lie. And that's a lie from the pit of hell. Because May 2022, another spill from the tailing dam. The cyanide levels were so high that they were lethal. The villagers in Wanchicor, 10 miles downstream, didn't even get a warning. They saw the fish floating and thought, get this. They thought it was a blessing, a gift from God. They scooped up those fish and fed it to their families. They poisoned their own children because the company didn't have the decency to pick up the phone and say, we just dumped poison into the water. Children got sick, vomiting profusely. Where is the accountability? Needless did the villagers know that this gift was from the demon, Satan himself. The EPA found arsenic and cyanide levels well above the legal limits. No surprise there. But did it shut them down? No. No. February 2023, a massive leak of copper sulfate. Again, the water turns toxic. And then the most damning piece of evidence. The EPA reports the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia documented these crimes. They wrote it down. Actually did a decent thing for the first time. They recommended fines. But when President Boyka took office in 2024, those reports vanished from their website. Gone with the wind. Deleted. Why would you delete evidence? Why would you delete evidence of crime unless you are an accomplice to the criminal? You see, the water in Gecko is not safe. The air is not safe. The homes are cracking from the massive explosives, and the people are being told to leave their ancestor home. Leave their ancestor homes or die. This is not an accident. This is evil. This is evil by Avesoro. This is evil by Beer Mounting. This is evil by the Gunal family. And this is evil by the Mappa group. This is evil by MNG and all of their affiliates. Because this has been happening for over a decade. And the people in these lands, this is the reality they have to endure day in and out. Let's look at the timeline for treason, shall we? Because the architects are just as important in this story. You can't tell me a foreign company can rape a country without the local politicians holding them down or supporting them. It started with Charles Taylor, a war criminal, a man responsible for more than 250,000, we're talking 250,000 deaths of Liberians. I must add, he's not the only one. He had a financier who was Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. He did sign the original mining deals, while the bodies of Liberians still lay warm on the streets of Monrovia. You can expect that from a warlord. But as I said, the next person is going to surprise you. Because Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, again, Nobel Prize winner. What's with all these Nobel Prize winners? Is it a club where they just hand out Nobel Prizes to their friends? Because you have Milton Friedman saying that corporate exists to make profit at any means possible, at the expense of people and the environment. You have Ellen Johnson Sirleaf financing Charles Taylor in his atrocities, 250,000 Liberians. And when she takes office, she's given a Nobel Peace Prize, the darling of the West. In 2013, she signed the restated agreement. She locked Liberia in a pathetic 3% royalty. And listen, you can't say, she didn't know. This was post-war and she was just trying to figure things out. Well, it's a lie. It's a lie. I'll tell you it's a lie. Because she knew. In fact, it's documented. 3 different consultancy firms warned her government. Golder Associates, Digby Wells, and SRK. These are reputable international firms. Please look it up, public information. And standing right beside her, her vice president, Joseph Nyuma Boyka. Remember that name. Third comes George Weah. Under his watch, the spill continues. But instead of stopping it, he amended the agreement in 2023 to give the government a 5% equity stake. Wow. From 3% to 5%. What is this? While you have other countries negotiating 20%, 25%, 30%, 50%. We have Liberian leaders negotiating for their natural resources, royalties of 3%, 5%, and thinking is such an accomplishment. Do you understand what this means? The government of Liberia is a business partner with the poisoners. Government, business partner with the poisoners. When Beer Mountain saves money by dumping cyanide directly into the river instead of treating it, the government profits. So rather than addressing the issue, they monetized it. They monetized the destruction of their own people and their own environment. And now we have Joseph Boyka. Again, he's back as president. He inherited that 5% stake. He is personally profiting from the arsenic in the water. And when his minister, Wilma P., probably the only man that had guts in this whole story, the only sensible man, frankly, says, I am appalled by the harm being done. He spoke up. And when he did, in October 2024, what did Joseph Walker do? Did he fire the mining company? Revoked their license? No, that's too easy. He fired the minister. You're fired. Out of here. You're gone. He fired the whistleblower. That tells you everything you need to know about the corruption happening in Monrovia. The whole administration is corrupt. Ministry of Lands and Mines, the executive office, the legislative, the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Finance. They're all corrupt. Heck, even the police are corrupt. It's nothing new. This next part is, however, interesting because this is about the global supply chain. Don't think for a second that this is just an African problem. Oh, no. Because the gold that gets mined in Liberia does not stay in Liberia. You see, Beer Mountain ships this gold to a refinery in Switzerland, a Swiss company called MKS PAMP. MKS PAMP. In fact, let's look at their footprint. Let's look them up. That is interesting. We have Switzerland and we have London here. Yeah. Truly transcontinental. You see, MKS PAMP then takes this gold that was extracted while villagers were dying and being poisoned, gold that was pulled from the ground while the police were shooting protesters in the head. They refine it. They wash the blood off of it. They stamp it with the hallmark, and off it goes. They sell it. It goes into the supply chains of the biggest companies in the world. We're talking Apple, we're talking about NVIDIA. So when you're scrolling on your iPhone, when you're using that AI powered NVIDIA chips, you're holding a piece of the crime. You see, MKSPANP conducted an independent assessment where they found no basis to cut ties. But they're lying to you because they're hiding behind confidentiality. Such a ruse. In that report, by the way, they did say that if beer mounting does not clean up their act, I'm paraphrasing, does not clean up their act, they're going to disassociate themselves from them. So it begs the question, when you conducted your report or your investigation, you did find something. But to say that no basis to cut ties, but you wouldn't allow the Associated Press and the Gecko project to review that independent assessment that you did to restore trust. You hide behind confidentiality. Interesting. Confidentiality from who? From the mothers burying their children in Kinjal, where the largest beer mountain mine is, the New Liberty mine? I'll tell you this. This is corporate colonialism. It is the West draining the wealth of Africa and leaving behind nothing but poison and dead bodies, and patting themselves on their back for their green technology. There is nothing green about cyanide. There is nothing sustainable about shooting protesters. 3 people were killed in that protest. In fact, there are many today who survived it who still have the scars to show. Sata Sat took a tear gas canister to the skull. She has the scar to prove it. The police spokesperson, Cecilia Clark, called the reports of the deaths false and misleading. Does this look false to you? So they'll kill you and then they will call you a liar. This is the system that we're dealing with. Well, we can say all of this without getting into ultimatums. So we have to ask, what happens now? Do we just watch? Do we just let the Gonal billionaire family buy another yacht while Liberians continue to drink arsenic water? No, no, heck no. We demand accountability. That's what we do. We hold the bastards responsible and accountable. A forensic audit of every dime that went from beer mounting to the Liberian government. We need to know who got paid to delete those reports off of the EPA website. We need the immediate revocation of beer mounting licenses. Not fines, not a slap on the wrist. It's not going to work. They need to be expelled. We don't negotiate with environmental terrorists. How we don't negotiate with human terrorists, we don't negotiate with people terrorists, we don't negotiate with environmental terrorists. You kick them out. And to President Boyka, you have a choice. These people still have a 25-year concession. You deem the right to cancel that agreement. So you have a choice. You can be the leader of Liberia and the Liberian people, or you can be a shareholder in its destruction. And that can be your legacy. Blood splatter all over it. But you cannot be both. You cannot be the leader and be a shareholder that poisons its people. Doesn't work. You must divest that 5% stake. You must cancel the amounting contract. The deleted records, the Environmental Protection Agency reports that were conducted of the toxic spills, the records that were documented, they must be restored. It's important. Or the people who deleted them must resign. And if it was your mandate, then you must resign. Because right now, you're not governing. You're just a foreman on a plantation owned by Turkish billionaires. A slave. I'll make it nice. A house slave. God ought to judge this wickedness. And I believe he will. But until then, we have to act. I want you to take this video and I want you to send it to everyone you know. I want you to tag NVIDIA. I want you to tag Apple and ask them why their supply chain is poisoned. They need to be answerable for this. Put this video out. Go ahead and clip it. Please do. Send it to the Liberian government. Send it to the EPA. I dare you. I dare you. Because they're terrified of the truth getting out. They're scared that the world will see that their economic development is actually a massacre in slow motion. I commend the Associated Press and the Gecko Project for their investigation, because these findings are truly shocking. Well, the truth is out now. The evidence is undeniable, and Beer Mountain must go. Avesoro Resources must go. MNG Group must go. The Turkish billionaires, hasta la vista. Because if you cannot do right by the Liberian people, if you cannot do right in the places where you serve, then you have no right to be there. If your mining comes with poisoning people and their livelihoods, then you should not be mining at all. You don't deserve to be mining at all. The reason why a lot of third world countries look to foreign mining entities is because they think that they have some sense. They think that they're SMEs in these things. They're subject matter experts. They feel they, being a small country, don't quite have the capacity. They don't have the know-how. So they allow these larger companies to come in, open up their economy for foreign direct investment. And what happens? You violate their people. You poison their waters and you kill their people. Blood is on your hands. Blood is on your hands. The blood gold that you take out of Liberia, you are accountable for those sins. It's best you begin your reckoning today because history will not forgive you. Bigger Mountain has to go.